me, it's Emily, and today I'm going to be showing you how to draw an apple. It's actually quite simple to do, so hopefully in the next 10 minutes you are going to go and have a go. So first thing, make a decision about what type of paper you want to use. I'm going to stick to my sketchbook because I'm a sketchbook artist and everything happens in this. But go for a piece of 150-gram paper. There's more notes on that in my bio on this. And the other thing you're going to need is a soft pencil, maybe a rubber if you feel you need to get rid of a couple of those mistakes. So let's get going with this, shall we? Okay, here is our apple. And there's a basic premise that there are 5 principles that you need to put into place when you are drawing. One of them is sculpting your edges, which is what I'm doing now. Here we go. What amazes me about the apple, I'm fascinated with the apple at the minute, as you will see shortly, is that it's not perfectly round. It's got shapes and sizes. It's got different colours going on in it. It's not completely red. And here we go. So those are my edges. How to put stuff on paper. Very simple. There's our basic outline. Okay, round we go. Let's do the corner hub. What I'm doing now is putting in some of that shape. And sometimes the shape is about the shadow. Sometimes it's about the colour. So here we go. See a big stretch of shadow here. What I'm also going to tell you how to do in a minute is a basic watercolour. So I always find that actually drawing around the lighter bits of a sketch helps me put some perspective and shape in later. So here we are. Here are the edges. And I've sort of covered the second principle too, which is about the shape. Here we go. Okay, and spaces. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of a shadow beneath it, which we're going to colour in a bit. There we go. And then the other thing that we look at in terms of a principle to draw is perspective. So how do we create perspective in this apple? Kind of nature does it for us in terms of some of those shapes, some of those streaks of colour emanating from that core. There we go. And then we've already done the 4th principle, which is the lights and the shadows. Now colour helps us with this, so I'm going to show you. I love working in watercolour because they're portable. So this is my little travel kit that I take everywhere with me when I go. And I also have a palette that I've used for other stuff. And the great thing about watercolour is, once you master watercolour, you will actually pretty much master anything you want to do. So I'm taking a basic red. You can actually pick up a tray of watercolours with 12 colours, and the theory goes that those 12 colours will help you create whatever colour set you need. I've actually added more to my 12, as you can see. Okay, so I'm mixing 2 basic reds together. So there's going to be more on watercolour because this is a technique that has lots of different faces and characters, but I'm keeping it simple. I'm going to try and do this with 2 or 3 washes. Now, my first wash is the base colour. So remember that we blocked out those whites, and we've also got lots of amazing colours going on in this apple. But you know what? We just start by putting a wash. And a wash is where you add lots of water to it. This is where the thickness and weight of the paper is critical because you don't want that buckling. And as you can see, I've kind of got a mixture of lots of reds going and oranges by the sound of things, looks of things. So here we go. keep adding that water and get that wash on really, really quickly. And the great thing is, dependent on the paper that you're working with, you can achieve this incredible effect. It's very unpredictable watercolour. You don't quite know where it's going to go, what it's going to do, but I think that's the amazing thing about it. So here we go, my first wash is going on, and you can see that's the beginning of my colours. And then we do a nail varnish thing. We have to wait for it to dry, like we would our nails. But that's okay, and it dries differently. And again, as just mentioned, I will be showing you how to do lots of different techniques with watercolour. But the first thing to do is let that dry. Okay, so we're back, and it should be nice and dry. And as you can see, it's dried differently to how we left it. These kind of watery effects. Okay, so now I'm going to add a second layer. So I'm going to start experimenting with some darker colours, so my navies, to actually add shadow. So you take your original red colour, start to darken it up a little bit. Again, you can probably put the paint on a lot thicker this time because we're doing the second layer. Don't be afraid as well to have a spare piece of paper to test out colours. You can see I've kind of created a delicious kind of murky purple here. Maybe I'm going to add some red to that, a little bit more red. Let's test it out again. Yes, yeah baby. Love it when we get the colours kind of right. They don't have to be perfect. And on goes the second layer. So here we go. We're adding the darker tones now. And as you can see, the amazing thing about watercolours are transparency. So the bottom layers actually do a great job of still kind of creating that rosy apple undertone. And here we go. I'm actually going to add a little bit more navy. You know, the temptation is when you want to put in shadow to add black. And actually, I would encourage you to avoid it. Sometimes not having black in your palette is a really, really good thing. So here we are. And can you see how we're now creating that tonal difference? Here we go. This is where I like to add a little bit of my own creative spin to give this apple a little bit of angularity and shape. Remember the principles of drawing? We talked about spaces, lights and shadow, edges, perspective. Use everything you can to create that for you. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just add some water to that to still create that effect of the light hitting our apple here, look. It doesn't necessarily always look perfect. So here's your second layer as an example. I'm going to look forward to adding those greens in a bit. What you can also do, clear your brush and just start adding, using that second layer to add some sort of interesting tone to it. This is where your creative interpretation comes in. I think an apple is such a fantastic object for doing this. Here we go, look at that. Who wouldn't want to eat this apple? I should say something about the brush that I'm using too. This is a number 8. Most watercolour sets come with a little brush that will get you started, and actually this is pretty much what you're going to get. I'm going to put some lines in here and see how that's now evolving. Here we go, look at that. Alright, what have we got left to do? So I'm going to run some more water over it. Here we go. Let that dry again. Then we're going to put the final layer on in a minute, which is the greens. You can see where, remember the tones that we're looking at. There you go. Okay. One last thing to add here. Let's add a blue again. Put some shadow in. We like shadows. Shadow just helps create a sense of perspective and space and shape and where it sits, depending what your light is doing. If your light is quite high, you can see that it's much darker right underneath that apple here. Even shadow has context and perspective and shape. There we go. Alright, second layer done. Okay, so here we go, our final layer. And again, I want to look at making this a really good bit darker. My final, oh, but I might add a little bit of ultramarine blue to get our sample paper. Again, deep dark purple here. Add that in. Bring this round. The other thing I'm going to introduce in a minute is my colouring pencils. If any of you have watercolour pencils, I kind of find that this absolutely helps our drawing technique. So I'm just going to sweep that round, add a bit of depth to my apple. Here we go. There we go. Okay, folks. So I've pulled a selection of different colour pencils out. You don't need to do this, you can carry on with watercolour, but I find with details, it's nice to just quickly sketch them in. And because I keep a sketchbook, I do carry colouring pencils with me. And sometimes it's a quicker way of just bringing in that detail. And if they're watercolour pencils, again, there'll be more on this in later sessions in terms of technique. You can start using those colours to start making those definitions. The great thing about watercolour, it's such a beautiful type of paint to use. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite things to work with, just because it's so unpredictable. You never quite know what your colours are going to look like or how they're going to fall. Let's add a splash of green in here. You can see that my apple kind of has a lot of greens and yellows. You might want to select a range of colours. And if you look at the light and how that's coming together now, look how much deeper the apple is here. So if we look at our 5 principles to drawing, you'll remember that we're looking at shape, space, edges and perspective, light and shadow. So to some fashion, here we have our apple. You could pretty much work this as much as you like. But I think for now that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how to start one. So, can't wait to see your attempts, and I hope that's helped.